Rightio, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to not a review of the Moto Guzzi V7 Stone. But I will go over the things I like about this bike. And I'm going to be perfectly honest, there's some good things, not so great things, and there's some things to be excited for coming up in the new version of this bike. So let's start off with the things I really like about this bike. Starting off, number one, the engine. It's just... it's hard to describe the character you get riding a Moto Guzzi. And to be perfectly honest, I was really looking forward to this for the summer. So previously I was riding the Triumph Speed Triple RS, wicked fun bike, but it kept wanting to make you naughty. And let's just say it was like having a little devil on your shoulder saying, go faster, open her up. And with New Zealand's summertime policing being a bit more harsh, I didn't want to risk my license, so I asked the bosses at the distributor, hey, could I borrow that Moto Guzzi V7 that I've seen hidden away in the corner of the warehouse? And they said, sure, take it. So I did, and unfortunately promptly dropped it. So I'm already in the process of paying for some new bits. But that's an aside. Lovely bike. I've absolutely adored my time with this thing. So things I also like: large fuel tank, 21 litres. It's almost twice the size of its nearest competitor's fuel tank. So the fuel range on this is great, which comes in handy because it doesn't have a fuel gauge, which in this day and age is a bit of a sin, I think. But yeah, it hasn't left me stranded. It hasn't given me a shock like, oh, you're running out of gas. So, yeah, large fuel tank, big plus that. The engine, heaps of character, 65 horsepower. It's not a racy bike, but it is plenty of power to enjoy. I find around that 60 to 70 horsepower is perfectly adequate for riding on the roads, especially on a reasonably heavy bike like this. You can cruise around. It's got enough torque to carry both my fat gut and my wife as a pillion plus luggage. We had no issues commuting from Whangamata to Cambridge and back together on it. We had a lovely time. Other things I really love, just the overall styling. So Rosso Rovente, I believe, is what they call this colour. It's because the bike's a stone, it gets that flat matte paint, and it's really lovely. And this bike has done press duties for over 10,000 Ks, which is quite rare in New Zealand. And yeah, it's picked up a few stone chips here and there, as well as the scratches I did in the exhaust. But it's holding up pretty darn well considering the abuse press bikes get. Love the headlight. I wish the V7 Special had this headlight. It really perplexes me that Moto Guzzi, for the up-rated bike, didn't give it this lovely LED headlight with the Mandello Eagle LED daytime running light. But Italians, I guess. The panniers, those are factory Moto Guzzi on factory racks. They cost about $1,500, but they have been really good. They're canvas, they come with waterproof covers for them, so you can use them for touring and whatnot. Great bags. We'll cut to my review of what I can fit in them, doing a grocery run. How much we got in it there? Alright, in the right hand panel we have one pack of salt and vinegar kettle chips, a tub of mussels, slab of cheese, can of box of refreshing sparkling waters, and the important stuff, beer. And on the other side, I seriously love how easy it is to get groceries on this thing. We have a tub of yogurt on the ground, more potato chips, a box of Coca-Cola, And yet more beer. I would say, as a grocery, getting groceries in the Coromandel during New Year's, way easier doing it on a bike than a car, right? Like, for the essentials. Alright. There you go. Groceries. Easy done. Yeah, so you can fit plenty in those bags. I don't know what the actual size of them is. I think they're around 20-25 litres a bag. And yeah, plenty of space in there to put bits and bobs. Been very handy over the summer. Hopefully, I'm going to get a chance to go moto camping, but I have been asked to take this back because it's needed to do some diagnostic troubleshooting back at the distributor. So I'm hoping to get it back and go for a moto camp and really see what I can fit in here in terms of camping gear. LED tail light. I've seen this version in the States. It's quite ugly. It sort of flares out, and yeah, sorry America, you get the less appealing looking tail light on these things. And the switchgear. I like the switchgear on this thing. So we'll crank her on. So, nice simple switchgear. No buttons to control daft stuff like, what is it, phone connectivity and all that kind of jazz. It's a nice straightforward bike. So, and the feeling at the indicator switch here, I really like. It reminds me of like early bikes I owned. It's simple, and you can actually feel it when you disengage stuff. So, one thing that has surprised me is the dashboard here. So ignore the little service indicator light. It has actually been serviced, but it was serviced early, so I need to get to the boys in the workshop to clear that. But this has really not bothered me. A lot of people on the internet hate this dash, whether it's because it's offset to the side, but as you can see, that actually works out in my advantage here with the quad lock set up. But in terms of style, it doesn't bother me at all. The only thing that really annoys me about it is it doesn't have a fuel gauge. So you've got this massive fuel tank, and you don't really know how much fuel you've got in it. But I've worked out you can get about 400 kilometres out of the fuel tank, so I've got enough gas in there to get me all the way home to Cambridge. So yeah, she's pretty good. Get moving, shall we, and start the trip back home. It's just such a simple bike this to ride. I really, really do enjoy it. Let that fella go first. Oh, is there something coming in? So if there's one thing about this bike that hasn't sort of been the best, I think, in class, it's definitely its suspension. I think that's where this bike is a bit lacking. Not that it is particularly bad, but it's definitely, when you start to try and up the pace, that's where this bike falls apart. Right, so in terms of things that aren't amazing on this bike, mirrors, they get a bit vibey. You can see what's behind you, but it's not particularly clear. And the suspension is pretty rudimentary. But that's kind of going with the vibe this bike's trying to put out. It's not a fast bike. It's not the kind of bike you go thrashing around corners on. It's a cruiser. It's a roadster. You jump on it, you go for a nice leisurely ride, and that's where it sort of excels. So I've been lucky enough to do over 1,000 Ks on this thing since I picked it up, and I've thoroughly enjoyed almost every second of it. I've taken a pillion, which is not something I normally do. Right before Christmas, my wife decided that she wouldn't mind riding pillion again after nearly a decade off bikes. So we've got to catch it up in Triumph gear, as well as some Kevlar jeans from the guys over at motogear.co.nz. And we've done about 4 or 5 rides together now, which has been quite eye-opening. So we've done that. And yeah, the bike's handled it well. I've just cranked up the preload on the rear shocks, and it's handled it well. The shocks and the forks are obviously the weak point if you're after a sporting bike, but Moto Guzzi has a new version of this coming out later this year called the V7 Sport. It's got upside down forks, it's got I think 4 extra horsepower, 4% extra power, so that's going to be really interesting to see. It sort of keeps the same classic styling of the V7, but it's a bit more performance and a bit more chassis development. So I'm rather excited for that now, having spent all this time on this bike. That pretty much is it. So my gripes again, mirrors are a bit rubbish, well not rubbish, but they're a bit fuzzy. There's no fuel gauge for the fuel tank, and the suspension is pretty rudimentary. Other than that, I adore this bike. I would happily keep it in the garage for a lot longer, but unfortunately it's got to go back to Auckland. So that is unfortunately cutting short my time on it. Hopefully I'll grab it back and we'll go do a moto camp mission on it. But I've thoroughly enjoyed this. I've actually liked this more than the V7 Special, which is the next bike up in terms of pricing in the V7 range. I think this is a wonderful bike. And yeah, it's sort of, things are boding well. And if I can get my hands on a Speed Twin 900, I wonder if I can get over my dislike of the dash on that. Because I think Triumph's sort of gone a bit backwards, including the tech on that. But maybe, who knows, maybe I'll feel the same way about that bike as I do about this one when it comes to the dash. So, that is the Moto Guzzi V7 Stone. Lovely bike, well worth a test ride. Oh, I forgot to completely mention, no chain maintenance. We've got a shaft drive. So it's just simple and lovely. So, another plus there. So with that, we're about to rock into Paeroa, an ancestral home of mine, as my mum was born here. So yeah, we'll go past the L&P bottle. We'll call that a day. So thank you very much for watching this very quick, not a review, of the V7 Stone. Hope to catch you on the next ride, and I'll see you on the next one.